Reaction time. I was looking through a community. I thought I had the highest sold comparable in, or I met the mark in the past few years. And then I saw a property that I sold recently as a completely distressed property. Here's what I'm talking about. 1762 Woodward Avenue. It was completely remodeled, built out, might as well have been from the ground up. And they were able to sell it recently for about $325. Originally, on the market for about 111 days. Here's the numbers of this deal that have my head scratching a little bit, but let's look first at the property. So this was a unique one. I did a lot of diligence on to try to see what is possible. It was just had a lot to going on with it. All right, so this is how it looks right now. This is how they sold it sold. And essentially looks like we're able to make each unit 2 bedrooms. So as you can kind of see here, they're maybe if I get an aerial view, you can see there's 2 properties. Okay, so this is kind of like a duplex, but 2 separate units. So there's plus and minuses of that. The big plus is that you can actually split this if you wanted to, and it could be its own, you can sell it as 2 single family properties, and it would have probably netted about the same. So they did well to not have to do the subdivision of splitting it up. The probably biggest cons was that it had 2 septic systems, and I'll get to how that was probably a problematic thing for us. Ultimately trying to see what was needed to ensure the septic systems were still functioning. But all right, let me cut to where I sold it as. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the history here, and we can see your boy right here. So we listed this as a distressed property, and don't judge me on these pictures. I purposely put distressed properties with these kind of pictures because I want it to be known like, hey, this is rough, and you're gonna get it rough. There's no inspection periods. There's no, hey, this thing, that, the other. Now, I'm going to scroll through here, and you're going to see very quickly the nature of the property and the condition. There was literally mold growing on it. There was unfinished walls. I mean, you could see that the roof was literally caving in right above the electrical panel, and this was during rainy season, so it was like this thing can go on fire at any moment. So I think it's fair to say this portion right here was nearly a gut job, save for maybe this bathroom. Okay. And you'll also notice that I don't even give pictures of 1762 because that was just a garage. In fact, it was the strangest thing because it was kind of a unit at one point, wherein it had electrical, it had a septic system on the side. There was kind of where a wall unit used to be. So it had the bones of hey, this used to be a house. But it was stripped down, just like concrete pad garage. So then it was okay, this has a lot of potential, and this could be something really cool and really great. However, there's a lot of money that's going to be needed, and so even what it ended up selling for, you kind of scratch your head, how'd you make $60,000 work? Because there's also on the back end, you're potentially dealing with FEMA 50, which I'm not even going to comment on that, which has to go in, which is the aspect of how much can you renovate this property before you need to do a tear down. So it was borderline just tear down. I almost got to the point where I wasn't even underwriting it based on a full remodel, and it was strictly just let's tear it down and use it as multifamily housing because you have platted 2 separate lots. You can do 2 separate buildings, or maybe try to do a subdivide and do a quadplex. The logistics and cost of that, again, just didn't make sense, not at a $60K tear down. So the person bought it, and they didn't care about the FEMA 50. They didn't care about the issues of the property. They saw $60,000, and they saw an opportunity to invest their money into it. And what this reaction is what they were able to make it look like, which was, going back to the original listing, pretty good, honestly. And then what they were ultimately able to sell it for, but I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around how much they could have made. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. Pull out a calculator. So I'm just going to use square foot real quick. So 1308 is the square footage that they put, and that's actually for both properties. It's essentially 700 on one, 700 on the other. Talking, we saw there about 2 bedrooms. One of them might even be like a 1 bedroom, depending how they split it up. It's called 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. All right. On a very intense remodel, you can maybe reasonably say 75 bucks a square foot. So at 1308, you had 98,000 for a rehab. If you went, if you factor in a higher cost, then yeah, you're at, let's say $100 a square foot, you're at 130. And here's why I think it could even be that number, because both of them needed new roofs. The garage needed actual like converting, or excuse me, needed trusses, needed converting. So like, yes, you kind of had the subfloor, but there were some portions that didn't even have that base concrete pad. It still needed like everything inside. I mean, at best you had an electrical panel that who knows if it was still to code. It is wood frame from the 1940s. And in a lot of cases, like the outside stucco was needing to be repaired. You're talking new windows potentially in a lot of these areas. I showed you the original, like there was mold in all these walls. It was a full gut, and full guts are just weird on a wood frame house. I mean, I'm not the end of the world. Obviously, a lot of other areas do it, but in Florida, it's typically like at that point you're just exposing all. So let's say it's on the higher side, 130. Oh, and another thing, the septic system. We knew the one side had active septic, and we were able to find out that the other side did, but was it still draining right? Was it still operational? I mean, they gutted the whole inside. What's the chances like you had to redo a septic system, which adds the whole another level of cost? HVAC, toilets, showers, just the whole 9 yards, and then one of them. So I don't know, like is 130 or could it be more? Okay, let's say it is. Let's say we give them the benefit of the doubt to 130. Now they were at 60,000. Okay, and they paid closing costs minus agents. So you're going to add their basis, let's say was maybe 3%. Okay, and another part of this that I forgot about was that they had to potentially pay off an enormous amount of back taxes. I know that they remediated it, but when we got to this property, the lady essentially had like a simple like mow lawn violation. Like the county came in and mowed her lawn, and I think like a car didn't have a license. The point is, it was a very, very stupid like violation, but she had not paid it for like 15 years, and it accrues like on a daily rate. And if you don't resolve this fine, so it had gotten to the point, and I kid you not, $94,000 was owed on this code violation. And that was part of the underwriting and the diligence that we did of like, what's the chances we can't clear this up? And again, you can kind of hear of like just how much was stacked against this property, where it just felt like, for better or worse, it almost just feels like a tear down. Those violations can very more easily just go away. You just build anew. Then there's the cost to build. Is it a multifamily? Like there's a whole bunch of variables here. And so I would say kudos to them, because, all right, you're at 61,000. Let's call your basis is 62,000 with closing costs. All right. I don't know what they ended up paying, so I'm not even going to factor in like what they've remediated it. I don't think it would have been to zero, but I think they would have definitely reduced it down from the 94,000. Okay. Now we just said it's going to be easily 130,000. I mean, the roof alone was $9,000. The roof alone was probably a $9,000 fix. All right, so you're at 192 for total basis. I almost just want to round that out to 200 just to like, because I'm using such floppy numbers right now. All right, so you're at 200,000 total basis to acquire the property, paid in closing costs, and renovate it, both of them, from the ground up. Maybe it might even be more. All right, so if you got 325 is the end up sale goal, minus the two, or actually no, excuse me. Let me subtract out closing costs if you paid both agents, and then let me subtract out the basis. That is possibly his take home. Now, I would like to think that code violation would have at least been like, I don't know, $10,000. So you're still at 82.5, which is an amazing split if that's what it ended up being. If you only put in, if we round up the basis to 200,000 and you sold for 325, And for this person that's purchasing it, whoever bought it, it could have been an in buyer more than likely, and could see. I mean, this what's funny is like that looks like the original bathroom, right? Like they didn't even do it anything to it. So kudos to this investor. Kudos to them to get to pick it up at a great price, put the sweat equity into it, and obviously the capital into it to get this to where it needs to be. I mean, geez Louise, like what an opportunity that they were able to make. And now the person that owns it looks like they have a shed in the back too. Perhaps a mother-daughter, a father-son, or maybe actually is rented out as two separate units. Who knows?